Well, it appears there is some reprieve for the governor of Ebonyi State, Dave Umahi, and his deputy over the decision of the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court sacked the duo over their defection from the PDP to the APC, where there is another judgment from the High Court in Ebonyi State. But the Court of Appeal sitting in Enugu today has upheld the February 28th decision of the Abakaliki High Court bordering on the defection of Governor Dave Umahi and his deputy Kelechi Igwe from the People's Democratic Party to the All Progressives Congress APC. The sitting, which began at exactly 11 a.m., had the Honorable Justice J.O. Oyewole, flanked by Justice Begore and Baggy, with both counsels and the both parties in attendance. In the lead judgment, Honorable Justice Begore pointed out that the removal of elected officials in this case, Governor Dave Umahi and Deputy Kelechi Igwe, lies in the hands of the legislature and must be in line with the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended. The judge specifically cited Section 308 of the Constitution and pointed out that no legal action can be taken against a sitting president and vice president, governor, and his deputy. He therefore dismissed the appeal with a 2,000 naira fine against the defendant. It has been a very sensitive matter for the governor and his deputy, but let me allow you to listen to the lawyers after the ruling of the court.
The Constitution of Nigeria has not provided that if a governor defects from the party that sponsored him into office to another party, he thereby loses his office. It is mere rascality that would make anyone think that it represents the position. You cannot go outside the Constitution of Nigeria to begin to read into it what does not exist there. So I'm not surprised that the Court of Appeal is in agreement.
And the APC are contesting the defection, that there's need for the court to order his removal from the office, having defected and abandoned the party for which he won the election. That is the summary of the purpose of the suit at the High Court and the appeal. And today the Court of Appeal had delivered his judgment, and to us, we get a copy of it and study it carefully and meet with our client and know the next step to take.
Well, let me show you what has happened since Governor Umahi left the PDP for the APC in that time is when we've seen this legal battle appears to have emerged. Take a look at your screen and perhaps you have a sense of what the journey has looked like. In November 2021, Governor Umahi and his deputy defected to the APC. On February 28th, Ebonyi High Court dismissed suit challenging Governor Umahi's defection from the PDP to the APC. And on the 8th of March, the Federal High Court in Abuja sacked Governor Umahi and his deputy and 15 lawmakers over their defection to the APC. Now, today, being the first day of April 2022, the appeal court that is, has upheld the decision of the High Court in Ebonyi. That judgment came out as a very sensitive one for the governor, Dave Umahi, who tonight will be hearing and getting his reaction to what has happened in the courtroom today. Governor Dave Umahi joins us from Abakaliki, the capital of Ebonyi State. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us tonight on the program. Let me begin by asking you, how does this judgment of the appeal court come to you?
Well, Shehu, thank you very much, and to good Nigerians, thank you very much. For me, it is good for democracy. It is good for the Constitution, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which we also want to uphold when we were sworn in. So it has strengthened our democracy, and I think that it is win-win for Nigerians.
So, I mean, of course, it's a legal tussle. And perhaps, are you anticipating that your opponent in the PDP might go to court to appeal this to the Supreme Court?
Well, you know, I've continuously said that I cannot challenge the judgment of a court. I have respect for judiciary. Judgment of a court is judgment of a court and must be respected. But I can at all times speak to the Constitution I swore to uphold. If I show that I do not understand the Constitution of Nigeria, then I don't want being a governor. And so I'm not afraid of that. And my confidence has always been in God and in our Constitution. Section 308 is very, very sacrosanct. And I don't think that anybody has the right to go and import what is not in the Constitution and they bring in. If you do that, then the democracy will be, at risk. And for any reason, you do that. And I love what the appeal court judge said, that defection may be moral. But we have to understand why one had to defect. When somebody becomes very unbearing, in a particular, political party, you have to leave it for him.
So we'll get to the meat of what the court said and what the law also says, because they say for every rule there is an exception. That's as far as our laws are concerned, but we'll get to that in a bit. But let me ask you, do you suppose that this legal tussle is more politically motivated against you, other than the fact that it is a legal challenge meant or set out to test our laws?
I don't think that anybody will be testing to know whether your name is Shehu, because the Constitution is very clear, about the immunity that is enjoyed by the governor, the deputy, the president, the vice president. And there is no basis for that. And Shehu, you say that in every rule there is an exception. The Constitution is not a rule. It is a constitution, and it is binding on every Nigerian to respect and to uphold. So you cannot begin to test, the nakedness of a section of a constitution that this on this matter. So I don't think that I should call it an accident of judgment.
Let me, and when I say there is an exception, of course, there is a general principle that for every rule, rule means that in most part of our laws also, there are also exceptions to some part of it. For example, Section 308 talks about the immunity that 4 categories of persons enjoy in our laws in Nigeria. The president, the vice president, the governor, and the deputy is sacrosanct. That immunity is sacrosanct from civil and criminal proceedings in court. But there are exceptions to it. If you go for an election, the exception is that as a governor, that election can be tested. Your election is being tested, and as such, you are also entering into a civil proceedings in court over your election. Those are exceptions to that rule of 308. But the question here that I would like to draw your attention and perhaps get your reaction to is that there is a federal high court judgment which sacked yourself and your deputy. What was upheld today was the judgment of the High Court in Ebonyi. But that of the Federal High Court in Abuja has not yet been tested or been appealed. Do you suppose that, what do you think will happen to this subsisting judgment?
Sure, I'm not a lawyer, I'm a governor. But there is what is called in law the judgment in rem. And the judgment in rem of 2 high courts, cogent, court of equal jurisdiction, is that if a matter is entered in a particular court and the same subject matter is also entered in another court, the moment, a judgment is delivered in a particular court on the subject matter, and the subject matter now is, whether the governor should vacate his seat or not on the account of defection. That's the subject matter. And so PDP, they showed interest, by suing. the APC also showed interest. I said, no, if you are removing a governor, I contested, I should be the one to be declared winner. And the SDP also went to Federal High Court in Abakaliki and obtained an injunction against PDP. Didn't even join us and said, look, we contested the election. The law says if you didn't contest the election, you cannot be declared a winner. So you have to, declare our interest. We are interested in this matter. So there are three kinds of judgment in this matter. And the subject matter is the seat of the governor, whether it should become vacant or not on the account of defection. And so the matter is very simple at the appeal court. And the appeal court has dealt with the matter, which is the subject, of whether a governor should leave his seat on defection. And the appeal court says no. There is no such rule. And what the Constitution did not mention, is not intended.
So the question here is that the case in the High Court was not actually a case that was being pushed by the PDP. This was a case, I understand, by Senator Sonny Uboji, challenging your defection from the PDP to the APC and whether or not you should not vacate your seat after you have defected. That of the PDP is at the Federal High Court. And you have entered an appeal in that matter. That might be heard also. And what is the biggest fear as far as that case is concerned?
So I've told you that the subject matter is the same and that there are three rulings in this case. Uboji is not actually saying that I should vacate my seat. The SDP is not actually saying that I should vacate my seat, but they're saying that PDP cannot benefit, from this, should the law allows me to vacate my seat. And so Uboji is saying, look, I came second in the election and I contested. So if the governor is vacating his seat by any kind of judgment, I should be the one to be declared winner. That's the High Court listing. And the High Court in Ebonyi State says, no, you cannot even sue the governor in the first place. The rules that allows you to go to tribunals, they're also enshrined in the Constitution and the Electoral Act. But in this case, where there is no pre-election matter, there's no tribunal matter, and the governor is sitting, and for me, I'm sitting very, very well, and you say that the governor should vacate on account of defection. It's very strange to our Constitution. And so, for me, the subject matter has been dealt with, by the appeal court, and the two courts in Ebonyi State has also dealt with the matter. And those judgment came ahead of the Abuja High Court. And so the Abuja High Court was notified of this judgment in rem, and they still went ahead to give judgment. But I'm not criticizing the judgment. I accepted the judgment in good faith, and also made efforts, through the grace of God, to set it aside because I know it's not in line with our Constitution. So I'm not afraid of, because it's still the same matter, So it's the same matter. Even though we are in appeal court in Abuja, it's up to the appeal court in Abuja to take a decision. We've not abandoned the appeal in Abuja.
Okay, we see what becomes of the appeal. I mean, it's a judgment. I mean, when you go in front of a judge, of the court, you appear in front of the court, you expect two things can happen. You either win or you either lose. Do you imagine or do you envisage the worst case scenario? And how do you hope to handle it should it happen?
Sure, we have 3 levels of jurisdiction or even more at the lower level, but we have the High Court, we have the Appeal Court, we have the Supreme Court. The essence of our Appeal Court is that there are fewer, and in case there are mistakes, these are people, very, revered people that graduated from the High Court to Appeal Court. So they critically will look at this, and for the Appeal Court and the Supreme Court, they look at the Constitution because they uphold, the integrity of this country. And the integrity of the country is our Constitution. So there won't be, mistakes of trying to, add to the Constitution or remove from the Constitution. So I believe that the Appeal Court in Enugu is the same thing with the Appeal Court, any part of this country. And they have interpreted it, and it's very simple. They say you can't sue the governor, and that's what Section 308 has said. So I'm not going to jump the ship. I'm in appeal, and I can't be speaking to the appeal in Abuja, but I can speak to the appeal that is concluded in Enugu. And I'm very happy with the appeal. And for me, it's victory for democracy, it's victory for Nigeria.
I mean, it's again, there is some kind of politics and some kind of morality and some kind of law in all of these. As an experienced and seasoned politician who left his craft as a professional into these, you carried a lot of ethics and value into politics. Do you imagine that it is fair for any political party to have worked hard to earn, and the case has been decided in the case of decided cases in the issue of Amechi, in the issue of Abegunde, decided cases that the political party owns the mandate and owns the platform. Is it fair and morally justified that a political party prosecute an election, and at the end of the day, the bearer of such platform jumps ship?
I will answer you this question on two grounds: the issue of morality, stroke fairness, and the issue of the law. The law is sacrosanct, and there is nothing you can do about it. Whether it is immoral or moral, the law, you have to respect it, because that's the platform upon which all of us must, base our decisions. But on the issue of morality, is it fair for, a governor, to become overbearing, on other governors? In party affairs? Is it fair for a governor to direct, for disciplinary action to be meted against a fellow governor, why the person, has committed over and over such offenses, and because of his overbearing status, nothing was done? Is it fair for a governor to say to a deputy governor, who is your father? Is it fair for a governor to say to a sitting governor, you came here kneeling down to be given umbrella? Is it fair? Is the party one-man show? And so, in my childhood, I competed very well. And in my adulthood, I compete. And so, apart from the injustice, which I enumerated when I was leaving the party, this issue of one man dictating the shoes in a particular, political party is not acceptable to me. So you have to balance the issue of immorality.
So, do you also, because the way you spoke at the villa the other time does look to me that you implied that the legal tussle is just on the surface, that your adversary used the court against you. Can you be more clear or give clarity on where you think the hand that is fighting you is emerging from? Who is behind your ordeal, which you perhaps think that all of this legal tussle is is just majorly political?
You should be answering that question, Shell, because you've anchored somebody, in this kind of program, and somebody boasted, and said, why is Umahi asking where his problems are coming from? We are the cause of his problems. We are in charge of his problems. So why are you asking me when I should be the one asking you?
No, because I'm not a party here, and I find it very difficult to descend into the arena, because when you, the political heavyweights, are having these issues, sometimes it's not clear to those of us who are on the sidelines. And that's, when we have the opportunity to speak with you, we want clarity. Your followers and those of your party may want to know, and millions of people watching tonight, if you can speak in clear terms, who exactly is behind your deals?
Sure, let me tell you something. There's something we must know in life. When God, is leading you, and you got to an obstacle, and then through God's own, miraculous hands, He takes you over the obstacle. Do not look backwards. I'm not interested in who is chasing me. I'm interested in God's mercy and His grace.
All right, we're due for break in a few minutes, and I'd like us to go into the issue of your presidential ambition. But before we get into that, Can you give us an understanding of the fate of the lawmakers who perhaps shared in some of the injury and the what the court, the decision of the court over their defection with you? Because it does look like their fate is also hanging based on your decision to move from the PDP to the APC.
Well, when a matter is in court, you don't speak to it, Shehu. So the matter has been appealed, and it's in appeal court. But from the judgments I've been reading, it is, the presiding officer of the Legislative House that has the power to declare a seat of a member vacant, and not the court. And so, since the matter is, has been appealed, I wouldn't like to speak to it. But from the little, I've read, law reports and, following up, a lot of decided cases, mostly at the Supreme Court and the Appeal Court, we are on the matter, and I'm confident that the same God who gave us victory today will give us victory.
Let me ask you, I was preparing your mind on this question as in relation to your presidential ambition. I assume that you've gotten your nomination form, have you? And what has become of your presidential ambition? Is it still alive?
Sure. Our party just concluded their convention, and the program of the party for elective offices is not yet out.
All right, so tell us about your ambition. You said it that you are interested and you've thrown your hat in the ring. What strategies are you having ahead of that?
What else do you want to know? I've appeared here severally, and I've told you that what God has used me to do in Ebonyi State, for me is going to be the microcosm of the macrocosm of the expectation of Nigerians in terms of infrastructure and program and security. And of course, engagement, across all the sectors of the economy, the youth, the women, the leaders, the elders. So these are the programs, that I've properly articulated, and I've also highlighted in many of my media outings.
All right, because the reason why I asked that question, because all of these court cases may have caused some distraction, and perhaps sometimes when you have some goals that you set, you might just get distracted and just abandon some of these kind of things, and that's why I'm asking whether or not that is intact. And going by what happened at your national convention, any lesson for your party, considering the recent events in the country, the state of affairs in the country, and perhaps how tough the 2023 presidential race could be?
Sure, let me tell you, I've said that, without a number, that I'm not distracted. God allowed that for me to see, the totality of the country and the affairs of the country. And it's very, very important for me. And I told you many times that I'm David. You can go and read about David in the Bible. David was anointed over 4 times, and he was running, a race of his life, hiding in many caves, escaping assassination and all kinds of stuff, But because God had anointed him king, he still became king. And the wars came upon him when he became king. He still overcame the war. And each time God spoke, he said, for the sake of David, I will spare the nation Israel. So I'm not deterred by the, attempt to distract me. I've been, making wars, all my life from childhood. And so I'm not distracted. And then for the convention, I think that you should be commending the leadership of APC. You should be commending Mr. President. You should be saying that, APC has what is called the self-cleansing velocity, which is a parameter in water, hydro water design. And this is an ability, to correct themselves. It's an ability to resolve issues amicably. And so that is what APC is known for. And the challenges we face in Nigeria was not challenges, orchestrated by this present administration. They've been there. And when you plant a seed, you must expect it to grow. But Mr. President and the government of APC have done quite a lot. But I'm always very worried, that, PDP will be demarketing APC and APC is not saying much about it. A governor that's done nothing in his state will come out and start talking about poor performance of APC. And that's why I've challenged them. Any of the governors of APC, I'm ready, or PDP, I'm ready to face them in a public debate, because you can't just become more Catholic than Pope. You've not performed, in your own backyard. And you are talking about, the tremendous performance of Mr. President to keep this country together from the rot that inherited from the misrule of my previous party, PDP.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency Dave Umahi, for your time tonight. We must leave it at that. Thank you so much indeed, and congratulations on the outcome of the appeal court today.
Wish me well, my presidential ambition, Shehu.
I wish you well too. You need all the luck that is available.
I hope you need it. Thank you, Shehu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your
Nigerians.
Excellency. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.